Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. We're your hosts. I'm Sybil Amuti.
And I'm Brandis Daniel.
And before we jump into this week's episode of the podcast, make sure you sign up for our newsletter at
thegreatgirlfriends.com.
And don't forget to leave us an amazing iTunes review.
Yes, that is the payment for listening to this podcast.
I love it. 5 stars all the way. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
And we have a guest great girlfriend. Yes. I want you to welcome Keisha Jeremie to the show, everyone.
I'm so excited.
Hi, Keisha.
Hi, ladies.
We call her the boss with the applesauce.
I know. T-shirts. Hashtags and T-shirts.
Yes, the boss with the applesauce.
Yes,
Keisha.
yes.
Oh my gosh, what's good?
So much.
Yes.
So very much. I don't even know where to start, which I feel like whenever people ask me that question, I'm like, okay, so what part do you want to know?
Yeah.
The day job, the sauce, there's just so much going on right now. Tiffany Dufu created this, characterization. She calls it the portfolio life. So that's how I've been making
I love
sense.
Tiffany and her isms.
The portfolio life.
You know, if I say Tiffany Dufu, it's going to be good.
It's going to be
right?
good. Girlfriends, you know Tiffany Dufu. Go back and check out her episode on the Great Girlfriends podcast.
That's
She's
right.
amazing. Drop the ball.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
Changed my life.
She calls it the portfolio life because we were having this conversation about other people needing to make sense of all the intersections in your life, right? And the debate was like, do other people need to understand it or do you just need to understand it?
Right.
And sometimes if you need to think about how you're presenting all of those intersections, right? And in a way that's thoughtful, in a way that doesn't seem frenetic. Yeah. But the reality is, I think a lot of us in our 40s had like a chapter that was dedicated to the obvious talents within us.
Oh, that's so good.
Right.
That is so good. Look, I will tell y'all,
Obvious
just
talents.
jump right in.
Yes,
and I love it.
Let's go there,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
The
good.
obvious talents are the ones that our parents probably honed in us, teachers honed in us, and we dedicated a professional chapters to that.
Yeah.
But you have this thing, like Rumi has this quote about the restlessness in your soul that doesn't go away until you paint all the colors on the sky. And that restlessness, I feel like, is awakening in a lot of us, where we're like, yes, of course I could do this and I can master that and I can do that well, but I have some other gifts and talents that don't let me sleep at night unless I start to really activate them. So it doesn't surprise me that a lot of us are living a portfolio life because we have a plethora of talent and creativity and, and all of those don't have to be streams that you monetize necessarily, but living a full life, I think, means not suppressing talents because they don't make sense in the picture. So I'm a global head of HR, and I have Sanaya, and I've had a executive coaching private practice. I'm tapping into all of the things that clearly have been planted in me uniquely, and that's what makes me feel good. And I think the generation before us didn't have that, either didn't have the luxury or weren't as aware of, didn't even let them kind of rise up to the surface. I feel like the millennials are inspiring us to do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. I feel like we've learned a lot from their boldness in not having things have to make sense to other people. And what I think is great about our generation is because we have the balance of the substance and the professional structures, right, to then take whatever this other intersection is. Like, I feel like we have the best of both worlds.
We do. I think we do actually have we were timed perfectly in a sense that we've got, most of our parents have gone through civil rights or something of the sort, and they were really big on having us pursue education.
Absolutely.
And pursue freedom.
Yep.
And almost, freedom of choice.
Independence.
And
absolutely.
independence, especially as women.
For women.
And I think specifically with Black women, you see that in the numbers and how we are so strong.
We're the most
moving economy
population
Come
in
on.
the country.
How did that happen? No offense, white men, but literally, that was us really accepting and embracing the idea that we could possess everything that was available. And I think now the millennials are looking at us and saying, "But wait, I don't want to live on my obvious talent.
That's right.
I want to live on every possible talent." But with each generation, we grow in permission, right?
Yes.
So every generation, will create another opportunity for the next generation to live even more liberally than the one
That's
before.
Exactly right.
So
I'm loving where we are.
Yeah,
because
we're in a good spot.
We're in a great spot. And one of the things that I do think is wonderful about social media is, they always say you can't be it if you don't see it. And I do think social media has enabled us, our generation, to see all of the different portfolio life examples and kind of be able to reconcile that for ourselves. Which is making us less afraid to pursue it.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What gave you when you first started? So for Great Girlfriends,
we haven't
we haven't really told you guys, but you're like
they're googling. They're like,
what did she do?
Applesauce.
What? You guys talking about boss with the applesauce? What is the applesauce? You mentioned Sanaya. What is this? Why don't you tell them a little bit about your brand?
Sure.
And then I think what's going to be so interesting to so many of our great girlfriends listening is for you to then talk about what gave you the strength as a global head of HR, which is such a boss title and job.
Chief people.
To then say, I am going to actually pursue this thing that has caused restlessness in my spirit.
Yep. Okay, so let's describe who I am and what I do. So I've been in the HR talent space for 20 plus years. I spent 13 years at Morgan Stanley, left there as a partner, as the global head of talent management, and then got my first chief HR officer role 6 years ago. So I spent the last 6 years at News Corp. And then now as the chief people officer for Tory Burch. So I've been there just since August. And so that's been my HR or talent journey. And then as you alluded to, when I was at News Corp, so 2 years ago, I had this idea to create Sanaya. Which essentially is, my concept is, I know that I'm not the only adult who loves applesauce. I felt like, talking about perfect timing, I felt like when you look at what Chobani did for yogurt, there was a perfect timing of adults want more protein in their diet. There was all that focus on protein and versus carbs. And they literally produced on the market perfectly timed with how adults wanted to consume, right? And so if you think about it now, this is the ecosystem that I'm developing Sanaya in is plant-based fever, right? Everybody either wants to be plant-based or be plant-based adjacent, right? But certainly there's a move towards less dairy. And actually yogurt is stalling as a product a bit. So I've been making applesauce in a unique way for many, many years. And it started to occur to me that fundamentally this is basically the same formula that Chobani followed, right? You time it with the nutrition demands of adults. You package the product in a way that's much more adult friendly, right? And if you think about the applesauce market, they've been decided kid focused. The Go-Go Squeeze, if you look on a shelf right now, everything is the pouches. And so with them going so far decidedly kids, it leaves this whole huge gap of millions of adults who are like, yeah, I love applesauce, but clearly you're telling me I'm not supposed to anymore.
Or those of us who are dipping in our kids'
completely sneaking in
I've been sneaking in my child's applesauce applesauce, and she was like,
all the stories.
And feeling guilty.
That's right. Feeling
It's a guilt around eating applesauce.
Right.
No, I don't have permission to at this age.
Which tells you how powerful marketing and packaging are. Right? Because why aren't we eating it? Because we are literally being told with the marketing and with the packaging, it is not for you. Right? So I have all these stories from customers who tell me about how they like sneak in the aisles, pretend that they have kids. Like there's like a whole right, and it's so fascinating that you're getting this message subconsciously and consciously telling you it's not for you. But to me, I feel like that's a huge opportunity to actually grow the category. Right, applesauce has been stuck at $900 million, which sounds like a lot.
No, it's not.
Yogurt is $125 billion category.
Wild.
So if you think about applesauce, and by the way, applesauce and yogurt used to be on par before Chobani entered.
Wow.
They were both the same size category. Chobani, Fage entered, blew it out the water. Because they focused on adults.
And Chobani's not been around that long. So that's talking a lot about the
4 or 5 years, right? Yep. So that was my aha moment. And if I hadn't, because I've spent a lot of time in banking, I don't have an entrepreneurial bug. I do have a money making bug, but I do have I have a secure the bag bug. That has always been important to me, and I've always been the person who's like responsible for the other people in my family. So I've been driven in that way. But I say that to say, unless I could have figured out that there was a significant market opportunity and wealth creation opportunity, I would have just kept making applesauce for myself, right? So applesauce is not my passion. My passion is really around disrupting a market, creating a market, creating a wealth generation opportunity. That is what gets me excited about this, because even in my day job, my reputation has always been the person who sees an opportunity that other people didn't see, right? And to be able to create a brand for the company that makes it more desirable and attractive for employees. So a lot of what I did in my day, did in my day job, it's been fascinating to me to see how like it's been useful in this.
So would you say that was an obvious talent that just translated over into this other vertical that you're in?
That
disruptor sort of.
Yeah, I guess and not an obvious talent, was not an obvious talent to me, but has been a lesson in, it's been a lesson in believing that when this great idea comes, whatever yours is, know that if it's your idea, all of the things that you need to bring it to fruition, you either have or you will have access to. Because, right? Like so many of the things that I needed in order to make Sanaya even be as successful as it is at this point, a lot of it is grounded in my experience at Morgan Stanley, as a campus recruiter, having to figure out how to brand a company, right? A lot of it is grounded in my experience in HR, observing people for years, what motivates them, why do they make certain decisions, all the interviewing I did for 20 years, right? I interviewed customers, and I was able to do that in a very probing way because I've been doing that as a coach or as an interview, right? So even my time at News Corp, we acquired digital companies, and I was part of the acquisition committee that would make those decisions. So I got to see people come in and pitch. I got to hear the questions that we make as an investment committee. And especially in this digital space, because direct to consumer is so important for my business with Sanaya now, I spent a lot of my years at News Corp helping Realtor.com grow their customer base digitally, right? So thinking about what's the daily habit that you need to create to make Realtor.com be on par with Zillow, because Zillow has a daily habit, this estimate. So we were spending a lot of time, right? And so with Sanaya now, it's like, okay, so the only way this is going to become $1 billion company is if I make applesauce a daily habit. Because that's what Chobani was able to create, daily habit out of, right? So where we place it, how we package it, all of that is driven from this like daily habit.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So many of the things that you would not seem obvious as necessary have definitely contributed to my ability to put it all together.
Yeah. Now, I know the birth of this and you deciding this, I think, if I'm not mistaken, came from a group of women that you were with.
That's exactly right.
Can you kind of, because this goes to the great girlfriends, right? And how important great girlfriends are. Talk about like that first kind of spark.
Yes. So about a year ago, I got connected to a group of women. We formed this group, and not a friendship group, but really a very intentional group. We called ourselves the Bad Mama Jammas, and built this intentional group around helping to activate the not obvious talents. So all of us had, already, professional careers, well-established careers, but we each had other aspirations that within the confines of kind of professional mentor relationships, like that's not what you're going to get, right? They're not going to activate that for you. So we put this group together, and every quarter we would come together and everybody had to have an ask and everybody had to give an offer towards that ask. And it was, what was so fascinating about it is how much work we all had to do on ourselves to make our asks bold and big, like in the beginning, right? To be right, because we all had no problem on the offer side. Somebody would make an ask, and we'd all pile. Oh, I can do this. I can connect you to this person. Da da da. And then, like, I remember in the first group, somebody's ask was like, "I just want y'all to pray for me." And we were like, "Okay, but no, what?
For what?
We gonna do that, but
get to what?
Where are we going, right?" And so we, it's a fascinating thing. Again, when you think about Black women and the role we play in almost all of our relationships, were on the nurturing, giving, orchestrating side of things, but not often on the asking side of things. So that's a muscle we all have gotten stronger. And I'm loving seeing how every time we meet, the asks get bigger and bigger and more aspirational because we have the muscle now.
Yeah.
Right. So once I had this idea, I brought it to the group. And what I wanted from this group was to tell me, is this a business or not? Right. Like, not just does the applesauce taste good, but do you see this as a viable commercial opportunity? Because in that room, we have bankers, we have attorneys, we have, right? And so that's the beauty of not necessarily going to your friend group.
Yes.
You don't need a cheerleader in that moment.
Yes.
You really need critical thinking, tell me, you need bad mama jammas. Right? The person who's going to be like, but I'm not going to pay X amount for that. That's cute, but I can, but that's not, right? And gave me really, really critical feedback at the very early stage. And then, definitely piled in with the offers, right? We were able to launch at James Beard House because of one of the women in that group. So, that group is everything.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. I love it. And I'm trying to, Keisha, like many of the girlfriends are trying to figure out, you decide you want to launch this business. Well, this passion business. This passion to a business, but you have a full career.
Right.
And it's not like a micro career. No. Like, it's a huge career that takes a lot of your time, a lot of your energy. And I'm a girlfriend listening, wondering where you found the time.
Right. How do you find that extra time? Yep. So this is a bit full circle too, because Tiffany Dufu comes back into the mix here with the Drop the Ball book, which, again, the universe, like the Christmas before I even came up with the idea. So I came up with the idea in January. Christmas Day, I gifted to myself, I'm going to read her book all day. Like, that was my present to myself. So I sat there, and one of the parts in her book really gets you to get clear about your best and highest purpose and what are the things that you're doing, spending time on that are not aligned with that.
Yeah.
And so it got me to reflect, even in my day job, like some of the stuff that I've done over and over for 2 or 3 years, that's actually not my best and highest purpose. Someone on my team, it's new for them. It's exciting for them. So I should be coaching and letting them execute, right? So it enabled me to make shifts on my day job. At the time, I had a full coaching practice. I wasn't saying no to anybody. And I got really clear about, okay, what is the offering that I feel like is my again, best and highest purpose as a coach. Right. What are the kinds of clients that I know I knock it out the park with and I have great chemistry with? And how can I make this offering in a way that's efficient and effective for me? And so I ended up doing just 2 offerings and reducing the number of clients that I had. So the long version of the short version is that book helped me to create space that I didn't even see, because I would have said I have no time.
Yeah.
So by the time the idea came, I had already created space. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, so we can't let you off this episode without talking about you being on Shark Tank.
Yes! Let's go there.
Keisha was on the Shark Tank one.
I was in the tank.
Yes, you were in the tank.
Yes.
That experience for you, we talked about it a little bit before we start recording. Give us take us inside the tank.
I will take you inside the tank. Well, so the first thing to know is what you're seeing is what you saw was, 10 minutes of what really was about 2.5 hours in the tank. And,
can I ask before that? How did you get in the tank?
How did I get in the tank? Right. So the executive producer, I think it was like the day before my birthday, executive producer, I look at my email and the executive producers reached out and said, "Oh, I found you, online, and would you like to ever come to Shark Tank?" And I was like, this is a prank. This is not, right? Like, this is not how this happens. But yeah, he reached out, had to go through an application process. But when he reached out, there was only like 2 weeks left before they were closing the application. So it was like a very intense, it's a long process, lots of paperwork, and you have to submit a video. But our team rallied, we got it all done. And then we found out we got selected, and they flew us out, I think, in May. Flew me out to do the taping in May. But it's as nerve-wracking as you would think it is, right? It really is. And I was going back and forth because when he reached out to us, we weren't even a year old. Sanaya, our year anniversary was July, 2018. So I was like, am I ready for this? Am I doing this too soon? But again, you're like, this door just opened. Right. It does not open in this way for everyone. Yeah. What are you about to do? Say, I'm not ready yet?
Yeah. Right.
The universe just said, you're ready, right? Yes. That's what just happened. Yes. So put on my big girl panties and, prepped. I thought a lot about, was I ready to speak be able to speak to the numbers and the revenue and the, not wanting to get tripped up on something, do you know what I mean? And the question asking. But again, it was a test for me as you're the CEO of this business and you need to have a command of this information, and something is telling you that you need to know this stuff now, right? So it was a lot of work. I mean, watching the show over and over and over and pulling out all the questions and making sure I could answer all the questions of other other episodes, a lot of studying, get into the tank, and, fully prepared to answer about margins and gross revenue and, all projections and all of that stuff. And, when you watch the episode, you realize that it didn't come down to that. Yeah. It was this intense conversation around whether or not you can be an entrepreneur and have a day job, and whether or not you're a worthy investment if you have both, right? And why can't you just...
when I tell you that part of that episode for me...
Yeah. Same thing.
I actually got angry.
I was infuriated by it.
Yeah.
Angry because I was like, here's your white male privilege.
Yeah.
Yep. Telling someone who you have no idea what their story is, what they've been through, what they have to go through to get to where they are, that they should just quit. And you have no clue
what that means, right?
And quite frankly, no one asks men the same question.
Right.
Tiffany R. Warren and I were texting about this. Men don't get asked this question. You would never ask a white male
who are you taking care of? Right. Who are you taking care of, or why aren't you quitting your job?
You never ask a man that question, so for them to impose that question, oh my God,
Well,
you handled it with grace.
Well,
your sister circle back home was like, what? How inappropriate.
And I was thinking about my face in that moment. I was thinking about my neck in that moment. Literally, Am I holding it together? Yeah. Right. And then also, frankly, the amount of studying and work that I had done to get to that place exactly, I really just felt so out of, I don't know, not out of control, but blindsided.
Yeah.
It was the last thing I expected to be talking about, right? And I don't know for you guys, but like when I feel like emotions are coming and I can't control it, it's the worst feeling in the world, right? It is just...
It's right there in the neck.
It's right in the neck. And I remember swallowing. I was like, if they just ask me a financial question, this tear will roll back in my head, right?
Yeah.
But they saw it. They saw the emotion coming, and it's TV, right? And so,
what was the emotion for you?
The emotion for me was literally feeling naked. The emotion for me was feeling naked. I mean, I don't talk about being the breadwinner, and I don't talk about who I support, frankly, because, I want to preserve the dignity of the people that I support. Yeah. And by the way, I just feel like, don't we all do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, isn't that just what comes with it? So it isn't something that I've ever thought about as like part of my story or certainly not in an entrepreneur. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so the emotion was that feeling of being laid bare. That's what I was feeling in that moment. And also I was feeling all the things that I'm bringing to the table it comes down to this.
Yeah.
That's what I was feeling in that moment. Like, so I'm presenting to you as a, global executive of a Fortune 500 company, a proven track record of doing amazing things and performing at this, and it would come at this capacity. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, this is what it's going to come down to, right? Me not being able to hold it together in that moment. That's what I was feeling. And also feeling like, my team was in the trailer and I'm like, oh my God, I almost had it and now I lost it, right? So the tears were also, this was going so well. And I was feeling like I dropped the ball. So I was already thinking about walking back to the trailer and being like, y'all, it didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? That was the emotion too. You could feel it slipping away.
Yeah.
Right? Because like I said, what you're seeing was 2 hours and 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
And it was going really well. And then all of a sudden it was like, So I was feeling it slip away. And I was also just feeling so naked. And the tears and that, and then the tears come and you're angry because the tears are coming. Yeah. Right? It was all the feelings, feelings. Yeah. I have not watched the episode again. And I don't think I could even listen to Shark Tank music play. I'm like,
but something rose up inside of you.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know, your clarity and your assurance. You just recovered the ball. It was like you weren't willing to give up.
I was not.
And you could see that happen on the inside.
Yes,
the tear was more muscle than you realized. For you, it felt, vulnerable enough to hear the naked part, but from the outside, it was like a muscle that drips down.
Oh, interesting.
It was more muscle and like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even this, I can speak to this. I don't want to, and I shouldn't have to, but I will.
But I will.
This in honor of what I'm working on.
Well, and I think I also felt like I need to tell my story in my own voice. Yeah. I didn't want the narrative to be I didn't want the narrative to be told only through their questions.
Yeah.
It was like I wanted to make sure I said my story and could get it out, right? Yeah. But it is fascinating to me that is what made Mark feel like, okay, you got fight in you. And I don't think of myself as a fighter in that way, but I was like, oh, Keisha, you got fight in you.
Yeah, you do.
I remember when you said, like, I've done everything else for everyone else.
Right.
This is the one thing I'm doing for myself.
Yes.
And I started out like,
give her the money. Just give her the money. Stop playing. That's enough.
It was, and Mark was my favorite.
Yes,
so
yes, yeah.
He has such a heart.
He does have a heart. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So we're telling you, great girlfriends, she got an offer.
We got an offer. That's right. We got an offer with Mark Cuban. So it did end well.
Yes.
And, post Shark Tank, frankly, you want it's a national television commercial that you could never pay for, right? Yeah. And since then, we've had buyers call, we've had venture capitalists call, customers. Obviously, we had a great growth from a customer base standpoint. So certainly all worth it. And you know what? I also would say the story resonated deeply. And it obviously it's something that we just take for granted. Like, yeah, you have an idea in your 40s. You clearly have obligations. You're going to have to do both. I don't even think we give it a second thought. Yeah. But if it was if it created such pause for them as investors, it tells me that is not obvious. And needs to be discussed, right? Because if your only image of what an entrepreneur, a courageous entrepreneur is somebody who is young, that doesn't have obligations, who can afford to not do both. That's very limiting in terms of the innovation and right that can grow out of that for us as a country.
And
right.
They also don't have a real view of the landscape right now.
Right.
They obviously don't have a clear view on the landscape and what the numbers mean. Yes, we're a rising number, the largest number of entrepreneurs. We also, many of us have other jobs.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yep, because we're the lowest capitalized.
You get it?
So we're self-funding.
We're self-funding everything.
99.9% of us are self-funding, right? I mean, I definitely saw the moment when I said, I've put $250,000 into the business. And they were like, I could see their eyes were like, right? Well, because I have to, right? Because I know that I can't go to investors, and I know I need to take the product much further along than other entrepreneurs who can come in sometimes with a sheet of paper and a great idea,
right?
And exactly. So we need to take our ideas further, which means you've got to capitalize, and you're probably self-funding, and I'm clearly blessed to be able to do that. But that is what our journey tends to look like.
So let me ask you, that's a great segue too, Keisha, because there is a lot of savvy that goes behind, investing in ourselves and our businesses. People want their lights to be on and they want to have a business at the same time. And so are you able to give us one practice that a great girlfriend could take away as a little bit of wisdom on how you self-fund and also manage to balance your other responsibilities? Because, there is this idea that you go hungry when you become an entrepreneur, and that you're starving and things like that. That's not the real picture.
Doesn't have to be. Yes.
So for you, there may have been a place of sacrifice or, reallocating assets or something, but what was one of the little savvy things that you may have done that allows you to have?
So I did two things come to mind. I haven't thought a lot about this, but two things do come to mind. One was I had conversations, more direct conversations than I ever have had before with the people who depend on me, and created some so for this year, here is the amount that you're going to get, as opposed to, if you need me, call me, right? And I did say I'm launching a business, which means that it's going to be, what I'm going to give you is literally all that I can give you this year. So I need you to be smart about that. As I look back on it, and I'm like, why didn't you have those conversations before? Right?
I heard Steve Harvey say that. I heard him say that recently. Actually, and he was saying that the people who he was help supporting, he had a conversation, and instead of doing you call me when you need this, you call me when you need that. He actually said, I'm going to write a check right here. And this is what.
And this is it.
And
be a grown up and budget. Right. And so I did have those conversations, and it was, and by the way, people accept it because what else are they going to do? But I was in knots the night before those conversations, oh my God, I have to, and feeling like I'm not there for them. But by the way, this is an important muscle for them to have, right? So those conversations were essential because it freed me up. When you talk about that liberty, living in kind of liberty and freeness, it freed me up from feeling like I was going to let them down, right, during my journey. And then the second piece was I also put myself on a different budget. So it was this is the maximum amount I can afford to spend on this business in this year. And I just put that money in the separate account, and I knew that's the total dollar amount. Yeah. So that was going to have to take me all the way till revenue $1. Yeah. But what I've observed is I do think some people in the beginning kind of hide themselves from the reality of the finances. Yeah. So I would say then the third thing, which I hadn't thought of, you're making me think, is that my best friend who started off as my kind of CFO in the business, I had a conversation with her, which was like, again, I don't need you as a cheerleader. I need you to be the person who tells me I can't afford to do X, Y, Z. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're focused on cost of goods. You're focused on, and I'd be like, oh, I want the one with the green sash. And they'd be like, no, ma'am. We can't afford that yet. Right? And
you got great packaging, Keisha. I tell you.
Listen. I love what something looks like. And so she reins me in from telling you can't have the gold fleck. You can't afford that yet, right? I'm a running joke with her where she's like, if you ask me for a gold something one more time, we not there yet. But I love embellishments, right? Yeah. But it is, I think, getting in the very beginning, it doesn't matter whether you are making $10 or $10,000, do the budget. Yeah. Do the budget for what's the amount of capital I can put. You're scared, right? Yeah. We don't like to look at it because it's like, well, maybe if I don't look at it, there's more there. That there's not more there.
Yeah. That's right.
There's not more there. And you've got to make, yes. And we have to be, and if you don't think you could play that role, get somebody who can play that role for you. Those would be my three things. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. How do you find time for your friends? Because you do.
I do. Lots of group chat. And my friend, lots of group chat. Yep. Lots of group chat. I'm an introvert by nature. So,
what?
Oh my God, yes.
Oh, wow.
Very much so. Yeah, no, I power down. I need to power down. Yeah. And I love being by myself. But the group chats have been amazing because I feel like I'm not missing out on anything. Yeah. I frankly just don't have the physical time or space to like be out with friends, as much anymore or frankly at all. But that's what keeps me feeling connected. So the group chat is basically where that's where I'm getting all my oxygen,
So much fun. Sometimes.
It's so much fun. Yes, you need a good cackle. You need a good cackle every day, and that's where I get it. Yes.
I love it. Where can our great girlfriends find the applesauce?
Yes, Sanaya. Yes,
Great Girlfriends
is so good. The guava is my favorite.
Guava. It's so good.
It's so very good. The
packaging is so beautiful. And it's a great gift.
It's a great gift. Yes. We have our gift boxes online, and we also have the single flavors. But you can get it all at SanayaApplesauce.com. SANAIA applesauce, all one word. SanayaApplesauce.com.
Keisha, I have one more question.
Yes.
We talk a lot about our girlfriends and their mental health and making sure that we're taking care of our mental, emotional, physical, be it therapy if needed, working out, whatever those things are. Do you have a balance of any of those or that you incorporate?
So mine has come from, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia about 7 years ago. And for people who don't know, it's a combination of chronic pain and insomnia. And it gets, you basically, there's no cure. You live with it every day. But what is so important when you're diagnosed with fibromyalgia is to proactively manage your stress. And it has forced me, when they say like, go have a seat, it has forced me to go have a seat. And I know that sounds contradicting to the lifestyle I'm describing, but I am much more aware of when I'm doing too much. And I will be like, okay, so tomorrow I'm going to work from home. Or to your point, like, actually, I can't meet y'all for lunch, but I'll get on a phone call So it has forced me to put up real boundaries. And the minute I feel any inkling of inflammation or anything, I actually now pull back ahead of that. Before fibromyalgia, before I was even diagnosed or had any of the symptoms, when I think back now, I used to push myself so far past the point of sensibleness. You know what I mean? Like, you're dragging in meetings on fumes and you're just, you're not at your best self and you just keep pushing further. I cannot do that anymore. And I was said to somebody, I feel like the fibromyalgia has been a gift because it really has, it makes me pay attention to my body, listen to it, because if I don't listen to it, it's a world of hurt. So it has forced me to proactively have a seat when I need to, say no to things when I need to. And I'm, as much as, it's a very challenging condition to manage, but it's brought boundaries into my life that I did not have before. Wow. So that's how I, massages. I'm thinking about, can I end the month with a massage or a spa appointment, or do you know what I mean? Just like once a month. But I put those things out there for me as like, I don't want you to hit the wall. I'd rather you have something already, there for you.
I love that.
So that's how I manage it. Yep.
I love you.
I love y'all too. This so space is so warm and cozy and nurturing on a snowy day.
So good. Girlfriends, I hope that you've enjoyed as much as we have. We're over here like goo-goo.
I
know. We really are.
This is so wonderful. Thank you for creating this space. Thank you for creating this space. Yeah, it's amazing.
We understand everything you spoke of. We relate on so many levels.
All of them.
To the sacrifice and the contribution at the same time.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you, ladies.
You just reminded me to make a spa appointment.
There you go.
When you said
that part.
Jeremie, we forgot.
That's right. Yep. We're good.
And great girlfriends, before Keisha left, she is offering our great girlfriends a 40% off discount code.
Boom pow.
Yes.
40% off is fantastic.
Amazing. So if you go to her website, then put in the discount code TGG40.
TGG40.
TGG40. We could not end this podcast without thanking our amazing husbands.
Yes, thank you, Kwaku.
And thank you so much, Rich Daniel.
And our beautiful children, thank you, Sam and Dylan.
And thank you, Miss Sky Daniel.
And thank you to all of you great girlfriends for trusting us as your go-to source for everything life, love, and laughter.
You can check us out on our social, on Instagram,
The Great Girlfriends,
on Twitter,
_Great GFS,
and on Facebook,
The Great Girlfriends.
And please make sure that you join our Facebook group, which is over 16,000 women strong.
Absolutely. And make sure you listen every single Wednesday on iTunes, Spotify, Podcast Bean, Podcast Republic, Google Play, and every other podcasting service.
Absolutely.
Be sure to post your questions, share with your friends, keep listening, and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're signing off.
Peace.
Peace.